Oh, that sounds terrible, and it feels terrible. Sorry about that. So, Leah, did you need to use a password to get in, sweetheart? Is everybody still there?
Yeah, I'm here.
It looks like her audio is still connecting.
Okay. Mel, you have the password in case you need to text
Yeah.
it to anybody real quick.
I'm sending it out now.
I can't even get myself back big. Am I still screen sharing?
Yes.
Oh my God. I can't open up my window. Wait, how many participants are on?
It's just you and Wade and me now.
I don't know how to open myself back up.
See if you can stop screen share and then start over.
I can't get to the stop screen share thing.
Won't let you do that either. What about the escape button?
Oh, I see absolutely nothing. It's the devil. I really don't know what to do. Oh, wait, here we go. Oh, there we are. Okay. We have no participants though.
They're saying it's still not letting them in.
That's so weird. I've never had this happen before.
Even with the passcodes, because this is somebody with passcode. Yeah.
So Leah, did you have to use a password to get in?
Nah, she didn't.
Okay. All right.
Let me see if I sent the right passcode. Let me look at it again.
But thus far, the well, let's see. Monique is about to hop in, so we'll see if she.
I'm gonna try sending the link again separately without putting it in a message to see if
Monique, are you the iPhone? Okay, so Monique was on. Did you have to use a password, Monique?
Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to do, you know how I'm gonna try to click the participant link and hit the invite button, copy that link and see if that works.
No, Ty, the one you sent me to my phone went straight through.
Okay.
So Team iPhone is working. Hmm. Okay, so I see. Is that Monique?
She's the iPhone.
Okay. Hello, Monique.
Hi, beautiful. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, so we are beginning to grow. And we are definitely off track with time. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start talking a little bit. I'll introduce P3 really quickly. For those of you that are joining us for the first time, welcome. For those of you that are return participants, welcome back. My name is Tanya, and I am the program director of the West Austin P3 PTSD program for preschoolers. And the purpose of our organization is to provide access to resources for children and families that are suffering from trauma. It is a program that we felt was extremely necessary because in so many at-risk communities, there are children who are not getting the mental health that they deserve. And in many cases, it's because the families may not actually even realize that the children need help. Excuse me. So one of the things that we do is to train educators. So we go into this into sites and we train teachers on how to become trauma informed. We realize that teachers spend a tremendous amount of time with students, and so it is important that teachers be able to identify the signs and indicators that might suggest that children are suffering. And then the other thing that we do is to provide monthly symposiums such as this one, so that we are educating the community about trauma, about mental health awareness, resources for families, self-care. And so tonight we are blessed to have with us a very special guest who happens to also be a family member as well. So it's an extra special blessing. But at this time, I'm going to share my screen with you and we'll get started. A couple of house cleaning notes. Please make sure that if you are not speaking, that your phone or computer, your device is on mute. Please let your video show. We would love to see everyone's beautiful face, but please keep yourself on mute. If you have a question, there are a couple of things that you can do. You can raise your hand if you know how to do that in the Zoom. You can also put your question in the chat box, or you can wait until the end, and if time permits, we can address all questions at that time. But please, again, make sure that you keep yourselves on mute. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen really quickly. All righty. So again, our guest speaker for this evening is Melanie Foote Davis. She is an author and life coach. Excuse me. She is the author of a book called Radical Love. Can everyone see that okay? Well, that's okay. You probably can't answer, but uh-oh, I skipped a screen. There we go. And she is a self-love cultivator. So let me tell you a little bit about Miss Melanie. And please excuse me, I have a raspy voice this evening. Melanie is a wife, mother, daughter, sister, friend, advocate, and love enthusiast who devotes her time to empowering professional women how to align their self-care with business goals. Melanie is on a mission to arm women and teen girls on the cusp of womanhood with the tools to reach their destination, unapologetically saying yes to themselves, yes to their heart's desires, and yes to living a bold and courageous life. She has been featured on Fox 32 News, TEW Radio, Empower 2 Radio, and Rejoice 102.3 FM Radio. Melanie's gentle yet no-nonsense approach and expertise leads women to breakthroughs that position them for lifelong success. So welcome, Miss Melanie.
Hello, hello, hello.
I am going to stop sharing my screen at this time, and I'm going to start with a question to you, my dear. In life, we can choose a path, or a path can choose us. Which would you say is fitting for you, and what led you on this journey?
So that's a great question, Tanya. One of the things that I would say is actually both have some truth to it. I'll start with where I am as far as my perspective, right? So you mentioned whether we can choose our path or life chooses a path for us. And the reason I say both is true is for one, a path choosing us, my belief is that we all are here with purpose and on purpose. And even the fact that we are here having this conversation right now, our paths all cross because I am a part of your assignment and you are a part of mine. So that is where life is actually creating our path for it. Now, the second thing is, do we choose our path? My other belief is that we're also co-creators. So when we're here on this path, in this assignment, we actually get to co-create with, I don't know, I should have asked before, but I do reference God from time to time, right? So we are able to co-create with God in terms of how we will navigate our way through this path, right? Because we all have the power of choice. Is that making sense?
It does. It does.
Yeah. And so what led me here is that a part of my assignment, like a part of my soul essence, is love. And there's a huge part of me that I've always been a natural safe space holder, a container of secrets, a safe space from ever since I can remember. So that is a part of my path and my destiny that was chosen for me. And then it's up to me to show up fully, like really embrace that assignment and play out my part.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So tell us about self-care. We are women that are tense and we have all of these things going on in our lives and we're trying to balance it all. Take it away. Tell us what to do to make ourselves better.
So first, let me just start with this. So one of the things that's really important to me and a huge value of mine is safe space. So if we can just take a moment where we all come in agreement that we are going to hold this space as safe. And that means that whatever is shared in this space stays in this space. You are free to go out and share with the world what your experience was and what your takeaways are. But if for some reason someone else shares something, my request is that you not share someone else's experience in this space. And so if you are in agreement with that and choose to be in alignment with us keeping this space safe and sacred, then please put a 1 in the chat or use the reactions button and give us a thumbs up. So I'm just checking. I need everyone in agreement. Yes. And the other thing I ask, because all of this is a part of your self-care, is to make sure as a practice, when you come into spaces like this, that you set up things to make sure you're taking care of you. So for example, is your space right now where you are, is it set up where it's an environment where it's nourishing and nurturing for you so that you're actually able to receive what we're going to discuss tonight? Do you have your hydration? Like I have mine. Yes, it's a wine glass, but I promise you it's not vodka or gin, it's water. I put it in a wine glass because that brings me joy. Like I get to simulate having wine and have my hydration. Thinking about aromatic, your space, is it what you need? Like I'm diffusing lemongrass right now. That's a way to take care of yourself. So it's all these simple things that we set ourselves up for as we enter a space, as we enter our day, that we don't often think about. Even down to setting the expectations with your family or your support team, whoever is in the environment that you're sharing it with today, do they know that you need this time for you? So those are some things, those are some simple practices to start with that as you move forward, whenever you have something going on, when you are attending something that's for you, that you set up these things because it's a part of your soul care. Is anybody, does anyone need to take a moment to just grab any one of those things to make sure you're good right now? And if so, take this time for you. So then here's my next question. Is your mind full? Or are you mindful, or is your mind full? Like, is your body here with me, and your mind is on the other side of town, right? Like, are you here in this space on Zoom, but your mind is still at work, or it's still on that last phone call? And if it is, then I invite you to take a moment to just breathe. Just slowly take a moment to just release all of that. And just inhale through your nose for a moment. And then exhale slowly. Do that again. And then bring your hands up over your head, your palms facing together, and then just bring them down into your heart. And let's bring ourselves into this space. And just see whatever thoughts there are to just wash away. And when you're ready, just slowly open your eyes. So how was that? That was good. Yeah, anybody else? How was that? How long? It didn't take but a few minutes, right, Tanya? And yet you said good. So what was it about it that felt good?
Okay, so if you want me to be honest,
Mhm.
I am actually still physically at work. And so I had to remove myself from the physical surrounding, and the breaths allowed me to just kind of forget the physical and just listen to my body.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I see Janelle. Thanks for joining us, Janelle. She said it feels settled. And if you notice, how much time did that take?
Seconds.
Yeah. And how many of you came to this call with a belief that you don't have time? Like that's time is one of the things that's your challenges. If time is something that's been a challenge or that you believe was a challenge, then put a 3 in the chat. Yeah, thank you. Is that pronounced Darina? Darina? Thank you. Thank you, Janelle. Thank you, Darina.
Darina, yes.
Darina, yes, yes. And so we're not alone, and we always feel, yes, I see you feel like we never have enough time. But here's the thing, we get to create it. Because remember, we are co-creators, right? Yeah. So if it's okay for me to share my screen with you all. We've already talked about your soul care, making sure your environment is what you need it to be, right? Also, I didn't mention if you don't have it already, grab a notebook or a journal or something so that you can capture whatever resonates with you so that you are free to, you'll have those notes to be able to reflect, right? So here's another thing that I skipped. I talked about safe space, but I want you to really think about it as we consider, before I even get into more about what self-care is, take a moment to check in and ask your heart, like place your hand over your heart, take a breath, and just ask your heart, what do you need to feel safe here in this space? Because that's something else that we often forget to do. To just do a self check-in What is it that you need so that you can feel safe? And my request is that you write it down so that you know what that is. And if you're comfortable, please place it in the chat so that I can set the intention that I hold that for you. And if you're not comfortable sharing in a group, then send it to me privately. And if for some reason you're not sure where to go with that, some of the things that typically come up is I want to feel heard. I don't want to feel judged. I want to feel respected. So those are some of the things that are common answers in terms of what helps you feel safe. So take a moment to check in because that's something we don't often think about. And I'm going to just check the chat real quick, except I can't find the chat. There we are. Unconditional love. Oh, yes. Thank you, Hope. Yeah. And here's the thing. There's so many of us that have conditions around the way we love and how we choose to love. Yet we expect to be loved in return. And so here's a tip, a simple tip. Give what you wish to receive. Like be a contributor in that way. So offer unconditional love. So here's the thing. Some of the things I'm going to share may be uncomfortable for some. It may be familiar for others. But the part that may make it uncomfortable is it may challenge your beliefs, right? It may challenge what you've been used to doing. So if that happens, I ask that you just lean into it and be curious. Come with playful curiosity because there's something for you there. If you feel resistant or uncomfortable, there's a message for you in that space. Is that making sense? Okay. So one of the things we're going to be talking about as we do it is going to shift our beliefs a little. It's going to shift your perceptions. It's going to shift your mindset. It's going to shift the directions of your yes, your patterns, your behaviors, and even your love story. And so we came into 2020 like, oh yeah, I'm ready. 2020 vision, I am going to, I have all these plans. I'm going to just take it by storm, right? And then bam, the pandemic hit and we had to stay home, shelter in place. We had to mask up. There were, we experienced a lot of drama and trauma in terms of social justice and activism and the election. And then we were not only working from home, but also teaching our children. And in all of that, it's like finding your calm. Like, what? Like, what is that? How am I supposed to access that from here? And here's what I want you to know and understand is that every storm that passes through is clearing a path for something bigger, brighter, and more beautiful. So that's a perspective where we get to shift from focusing on all of the things that felt harmful, hurtful, that angered us, confused us, frustrated us, even made us afraid that all of this is just a storm passing through and that something beautiful is paving a way if we choose it. Is that resonating with anyone?
What do you mean if we choose it?
If we choose it, because we do get to be co-creators.
Mm.
So we can choose to focus on everything we hated about 2021. We can focus on all the things that went bad, or we can see it, accept that it's happened, even though it wasn't pleasant, and then choose how to create space for ourselves to feel whole. Because if we keep just reliving and reprogram all of the things that went bad, we won't see the gifts and the opportunities that are also hidden in the midst of all of that, which is what stands in the way of us being able to find our calm. Did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Okay. And so let me ask you, what are the things that you believe are your joy blockers? What are the things that rob you of your peace? And not only the what, who do you feel is stopping you from having that calm, that peace, and being able to find your center? Any takers? Anyone want to chime in?
Well, I'll jump in and say someone I think just wrote me. And
Mhm.
oftentimes I do stand in my own way. And I
Mhm.
know that I can be so hard on myself in terms of never feeling like I'm doing enough or that I'm not good enough at what I'm doing. Despite what others may say,
Mhm.
I think that I stand in my way a great deal.
Yeah. And you know what? I am raising my hand to say that I stand in my way too, right? Who's with us? I know that Tanya and Janelle and I are not alone. So if you have also felt like you were the one standing in the way, then raise your hand. Yes. Thank you, Talia.
It's funny, Melanie, sorry I gotta interrupt, but
Mhm.
we don't know each other and it's in the group. Yeah, obviously I know you, but
Mhm.
it's amazing that we are so much more alike than
Mhm.
than we think or that we would even imagine. So, um, I love it. It just blows me away every time.
Yeah, and here's the thing. When we thank you so much for presencing that for us, right? Because again, when we're focused on all the things that's wrong, right? So if we're focused on how different we are than someone else, we miss out on the opportunity to find that point of connection. So I am so thrilled that you actually brought that into this space. That we can sometimes be so focused on all the things we dislike or disagree on that we miss that we have so much in common. Every one of us have feelings. Every one of us have felt afraid. We've all felt angry. We've all felt frustrated. We've all felt confused. And many of us have felt unsafe, even emotionally unsafe to even share and express that that's what we're experiencing, which makes it harder for us to get access to it, to the answer or the solution, because we're afraid to even own our own truth and tap into that place of self-honesty. And so here's the thing, all of those things prompt us to wear masks. And it imprints us, it leaves an imprint. It tampers with our love imprint. It tampers with our beliefs, and it drives our behaviors. And so here's why. It's really important for us to face our BS. And no, I'm not cursing at you. I'm talking about our belief system. Because our beliefs drives our thoughts, which then drives our behaviors, which yields results. But is it getting us the results that we desire? Or is it getting us some less satisfying results, right? And so let's just really take a look at that. Are you all with me?
Yes, ma'am.
So here's the thing. We have approximately 60,000 thoughts a day. 90% of those thoughts are repetitive from the day before. And 80% of those 90 are negative. So when I talk about us having imprints, we all grew up with different belief systems that were in place that we heard. Either someone said it directly to us, or we heard it as a bystander, or we received it in something we read, something we observed, right? on television, radio, and now social media, and it imprinted us. And when it's repetitive, it gets ingrained in us so deeply that we're not even conscious that it's there anymore. And even if we don't agree with it, we tend to live by it. And we make choices based on that belief. And we could do a whole thing just on that alone, but we don't have time for that tonight. But is this connecting? Is this starting to make sense?
Yeah, I think you're in my head and it's a little scary.
Yeah, so imagine if we're able to shift, right? If we're able to shift those thoughts by commanding our minds, noticing the thought and shifting it to a new thought that is positive instead of negative, and then practicing and repeating that process, we can actually shift our path in the trajectory of not only our lives, but others. And there are many definitions of beliefs, but I'm going to focus on the simplest form, which is a practice belief. And when I say practice belief, it is just like I just said. So for example, what is something that you grew up hearing or learning? What is a belief that about taking care of you? If you do something for yourself, then that makes you what? I'm gonna check the chat to see if it's in there.
Selfish.
Selfish, stingy. Yeah, stingy is what Hope said. Selfish is what Janelle said. Here's another one. So if you believe that you're stingy or you're selfish, then of course that drives our behaviors where we don't choose ourselves and we choose to opt out of self-care, right? Here's another one. How many of you heard a belief around money? Money doesn't grow on trees. What's another one? Someone throw one out there. Money is the root of all evil. How about that one?
What goes around comes around.
What goes around comes around. Yeah. And so people, right. The harder you work, the more money you make. Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing, right? So then we're taught that if we work hard, we can have what we want. And then we get to do whatever we want. And then we get to be happy, right? Because you got to work hard for it. So remember I said we're going to be shifting some perspectives. So here's another perspective. What if we flip that and say, what if you be true and be authentic and be you? And if you do the things that actually align and support what you desire, then you get to have a life you truly enjoy. Not the one you pretend to enjoy on social media, right? But you actually get to live in that space. What if we don't have to work hard for money? What if all we have to do is be who we are, show up fully as ourselves, and then we will attract the money, the life, and all the things, the partners, all the things we're desiring. We don't have to always force something in order for us to be on the receiving end of it. We ask for many things and then we don't believe that we can have them, and then we block our ability to receive them. And all of these beliefs leaves us here. Anybody had a moment that looked like that? Because those beliefs drives the thoughts, which drive the behaviors that gives us these results, right? And then sometimes we end up here. You ever heard the term sick as a dog? Man, I was sick as a dog. Some of the things that we are experiencing in our bodies that's showing up physically are a result of the choices that we made when we opted out of taking care of ourselves. And here's the thing, that is dangerous, right? Those beliefs have us at a place where we're asking for more when we should be asking for help. But what's the belief about asking for help? Any takers?
Makes you weak.
Makes you weak. Yeah, what's another one? So here's the thing, is that true? Is asking for help weak?
No.
No. I heard a resounding no. It is not. It is actually quite strong and courageous to recognize that you need help and to dare to ask for it. That is indeed a radical act of self-love.
May I also add that oftentimes when you ask for help, you may feel indebted to whomever you ask the help for.
And even that is tied to a belief, right? Because at some point you asked for something, someone offered you something, and then they never let you forget what they did for you. And that left an imprint, right? Whatever it is we experienced left an imprint. Depending on our perspective, it drives how we respond to it or how we protect ourselves from it happening the next time. And here's what makes it important. We are so busy not asking for help, wearing our cape and wearing it proudly, that we forget that these beautiful little souls here is watching us. And so if we present as strong, and if we show them, if we don't let them see us asking for help or receiving anything, if they don't see us on the receiving side, then they also learn not to receive. So we are then passing this down and leaving an imprint in the way they love themselves. Like Tanya, you mentioned earlier that some parents don't know that their child need the resources that they have. I mean, that they need the resources. Here's the thing, many times we don't even realize that we need resources. So then it's really difficult for us to see what our kids need. And it's also, if we're not asking for help, we don't seek outside of ourselves to even accept the resources for our children. And who does that really help? And so here's a tool for you. Stretch with pull. Just take a breath for a minute as you receive all of that. This is a self-care tool. Don't let Pooh stretch by himself. Join him. Why did I do that right in the middle of this presentation? Why did I ask you to stretch and pause? Yeah, prideful. Oh yeah, feeling guilty, big. I asked you to pause and stretch because that's a tool, a self-care tool that we sometimes forget. And even in the midst, when we take in information, like somebody on this call is still thinking about that other slide where I talked about our thoughts being repetitive and the percentage of them being, 80% of those being negative. So we need to take time to stretch and bring ourselves back here, because somebody is still on that slide in our head. And what I really want you to do is go to your heart. And here's a new belief, that your me time is for everybody's safety. So you're not selfish and you're not stingy. You are here to help others feel safe, starting with making sure you're safe. Safe emotionally, safe spiritually, safe mentally, safe physically. And it's important for you to be full in order for that to happen. I wish I knew who to give credit to for this, but I think I saw that on a plaque or something in Home Goods, TJ Maxx, or one of those, because I'm a Maxxinista. So your me time is for everyone's safety. So are you willing to practice that as a new belief? Yeah, there are times you don't want to hurt some people, prideful, guilt, all of these things. We feel guilty about taking that time for ourselves. One second, let me go back in the chat a minute. I feel like I'm standing in my own way and being afraid of me actually succeeding outside of my comfort zone. Thank you for sharing that, Darina. And here's the question. Is it really your comfort zone, or is it a familiar zone? Because if you were really comfortable there, you wouldn't be seeking to get out of it or get away from it. And so let's think about that for a minute. What is it that you're really desiring to experience, Darina? What is it that you're really desiring to experience, Yvonne, Hope, Karen, Isha, Alicia? What is your heart calling for in this moment? What is it calling for, Debbie? What is it calling for, Beverly, Monique, Tanya? What is it, that thing, like if you really were to take a moment and go into a dreaming state for just a few moments, what is it that your heart really needs? What is that desired experience? Because that's where we want to aim our focus. That's where we want to place our energy, on how we get to the desire. I'm checking the chat. Tanya, feel free to chime in at any time. Stillness, peace, to be chill. Yeah. And you get to have stillness. You get to be still, and you get to chill, if you choose to. And so I just really want you to pause for a moment, just a few moments, and just close your eyes for a second. Take a deep breath and place your hand over your heart. And just really go into a quiet space in your mind. See yourself going into a space, either a place you've been before or a place you've dreamed of going. And maybe you've literally dreamed it in your dreams, right? But see yourself going there just for a moment. See the colors that surround you. Notice the sounds, the temperature in the room. Notice what you're wearing, your posture, the way you enter that space. And if you're in that space with others, how do you feel? What is that point of connection where how do you feel when you're with them? Because this is a space you desire. And just hang in there with me just for a moment. Really breathe that in. And then when you're ready, I want you to slowly wiggle your fingers and your toes and gently open your eyes. And I want you to write down. I'm gonna set the timer for 1 minute. Write down what you felt or what you saw. And don't judge yourself for it. Maybe you didn't see a color, but you just felt it. It felt like purple. It felt like yellow, pink, blue, orange, white, gold. Yeah. How was that? More meekness, happiness, peace. That was nice. Yeah. Does anybody want to come unmute and actually share what you saw, what you felt, what you experienced? Remember, this is a safe space.
Well, I will share that I was in Malibu, walking along the beach, listening to the ocean.
Mm. Did you feel the warmth?
The sand was hot between my toes.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. And what is it about that sand between your toes and the warmth of the sand, that feeling, that where's the yum in that for you?
It made it realistic from having experienced it personally. It
Yeah.
just kind of really put me in that place.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. Would anyone else like to share? You're not obligated, but however, I want you to know that we're here for you. No takers?
Well, Hope says that she was in the Bahamas on a cruise. Is that what it was? Yes, watching the
Ooh,
water.
yeah. Ooh, that sounds lovely. And how did you know it was the Bahamas, right? What was it about the Bahamas that put, like, what was the essence of it that felt like Bahamas to you? The water was clear and the air and the calmness, yes. And I asked that, so calmness and ocean, the air being clear, I mean, the water being clear, all of that represents something for you. There's something that you're connected to there. So are you all noticing how we're doing quick things that's not taking a lot of time, but is bringing you calmness? Are you noticing the pattern here? That if you just be intentional just for a moment, that was a minute of journaling and approximately a minute of thinking, like really envisioning. So are you willing to release that belief that you don't have time? Because we just shifted that. We just shifted that for you, right? And so you asked Tanya, what is self-care? So a lot of times when we see or we see images of self-care, what do you all usually see? Bubble baths, spa, all of these things, right? And all of those are wonderful tools and practices, but that's not the sum total of self-care. Self-care in this shortest definition would be making sure that your needs are met consistently, spiritually, physically, emotionally, mentally, and financially. And so it's important to be hyper self-aware and being able to tune in with yourself so that you can actually make sure that you're nurturing yourself and that your needs are being met consistently. Because here's what self-care is not. It is not a 911 emergency unless we position it that way. And if we continue to believe that we don't have time, not even a minute, to slow your mind down and get present, then our needs will not be met. And then we do need an emergency self-care plan. Any thoughts on that? Yep, the spa is what we usually see. We see candles, bubble baths, the spa. We say, oh, I do practice self-care. I have retail therapy every week, right?
So here's what I think, Melanie.
Mhm.
Initially, I would have defined self-care as me taking care of my family. But I
Mm,
realized that if I don't take care of myself, I won't be able to take care of my family.
you won't. Yeah. And it's tied to those beliefs about being selfish. That whole, here's a message that many of us heard: it's better to give than receive, right? And even though it's wonderful to give, how are we going to give if nobody's on the receiving end? And what stopped us from being the one who's able to receive? What if we find some harmony between the two and we give a little and we get a little, right? We give a little and we get a little. How cool would that be? And so Tanya, you get to choose because you're a co-creator, right? And you get to choose to take care of you so that you actually have more of yourself to give. Like you mentioned that I'm an author, right? So I'm a best-selling author, and here's the cover of my book. But here's the thing about the cover that people may not realize, right? Here's what it represents. Let me see if I can pin it so that you can see it. Is it showing up more clearly now? Or maybe not. I'll stop the screen share for a second and pin it that way. Is it more visible now? Okay, so here's the thing. One of the things I wanted was the cover to feel like the desired experience. I didn't want it to be an image of struggle, right? Because my goal is for you to focus on the desire. So many people think these are butterflies, but they're not. They're imperfect hearts. And why? Because it's important to embrace that all of the things that you deem as imperfect are perfectly imperfectly you. And why is she in color? She is filled with color because she took the time to fill herself up, to nourish her own soul. And because she's full, now this is her overflow. So she gets the love from her overflow. So all of these hearts can actually pour out of her because she is first full. And as she continued to pour out, there are more imperfect hearts here. That's her support system that surrounds her. So she has a foundation of support, but she also fills in and gives from her overflow. They fill in and give from their overflow. And then we get to be the support, the anchor for others. That is what this cover means.
Girl, I never knew that.
And so when you envision yourself and you in that desired experience, continue to see yourself as full, vibrant, colorful, like living out loud and living in color. You get to choose that kind of joy.
I
What's
never
coming up
knew
for
that
you all?
cover.
Yeah, that's what it means. So what's coming up for? Is anything bubbling inside? Is anybody bursting with something to share? Feeling resistance to something? Let's check in for a moment. How are you doing?
I'll say something. It's
Yeah.
more like not being in the resistance, but more like how you was explaining the things like the fruit of the spirit. You know, making sure that you have your self care because that mind, like he
Mhm.
says, without your mind, I can do no thing. So when we take care of self care and we take care of our mind first, that means we have to place ourselves on a list in
Yeah.
order to be able to take care of someone else. So I
Mhm.
do agree with that. And I like how the part where you're saying, well, it doesn't take that long. Sometimes you have to take back the moment so that you can
Mm,
replace yourself into a place of peace. So
absolutely.
when we, like you was just talking about, you know how it is, it's more important to give than to receive. Of course, we all been taught that coming up as a child, so that's planted into the consciousness. So
Mhm.
then when I had to learn that I had to receive in order the other person so that it can continue on, the blessing can continue to go in its full circle for in
Yes,
its infinity, it was awesome to open up to know that, okay, if when somebody gives me something, then it's allowing them to receive their blessing too.
yes,
So we've been
yes.
so long on learning how to give, but we haven't been taught to receive. So that's part of your self-care, to receive that people are overflowing their love on you.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, and yes. And I love how you talked about taking back the moment, because we do get to master the moment. We don't get one day at a time, we get one moment at a time. And when we practice seizing the moment, right? And when we practice to pour into ourselves in that moment, the others around us benefit greatly. And yes, it's wonderful to give, but how can you give when there's nothing to give? When you're depleted. So we have to fill up.
Yes.
We don't want to be like a car where it's telling us we have 5 miles to empty. We want to fill up when we get to a half a tank. Actually, before that, what if we keep ourselves full so that we can continue to give? Let's love and overflow.
But
And here's the thing,
Mel, how do you stay full? How do you replenish?
you continue to choose in each moment. One
Mm-hmm.
moment at a time, pour into you, checking in. Here's a tool. Remember when I said to feel into your heart and ask what it needs? It's called a love soak. Take that moment to just feel in. Your heart and soul will respond because your inner wisdom knows, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you think of inner wisdom, trusting that, that is God speaking to you, or whatever
Yeah.
you call your higher power. He speaks to us through our heart space.
Mm-hmm.
Trust it when you hear it. And when
Mm-hmm.
you feel yourself resisting it, lean in instead of pushing back.
Oh.
Because when we lean in, the more we lean in, the closer we get to the other side of it. It begins to feel, it's going to be uncomfortable at first because that's a learned behavior. We get to unlearn that, but we have to first make the decision to. Like loving ourselves is a choice. It's a path. And it's something we get to practice, but we forget it's a choice. And there's so much power in that. When we don't choose, when we believe that we don't have the power to choose to take care of ourselves, then that means someone outside of us has full power and control over us. And so, how can we dare say that we are strong and I'm a strong woman and I'm this, but then at the same time say, I don't have, I can't, I this, then there's a disconnect there, because then that means external factors is really controlling you. And it starts with our beliefs and our thoughts. So let's shift that. Let's shift that. Like change the dial. If you want to hear country music, you don't turn to the hip hop channel, do you? You shift the channel. So when you're having thoughts that are leading you down a path of self-destruction, shift it. Shift your frequency and tune into a new channel. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it gets easier with practice. So do so gently. Do so with self-empathy and compassion. So what? You missed the moment a minute ago. That's the past. You have this moment to choose again. And then you have the next, we'll deal with the next moment when it comes. But right now, let's be here. Thank you so much, Isha, for sharing. Like there's so much yumminess when you get to receive.
It's sure.
Like let's move all that yuck out the way and tap into our yum. Let's really enjoy it.
Before we wrap up, Mel, I do have one question for you. In your book, you focus on living an unapologetic life on your terms. Now, we've all appreciated everything that you've brought forth to us, but can you just kind of briefly tell us, what does that mean, living an unapologetic life on your terms?
That means when that moment comes, right? As Isha said, taking back the moment, that you take a stand for yourself and you choose to stay true to yourself, even when that means you may disappoint another.
Okay, now you know that's very difficult for most women, because the reality is that we don't want to hurt either people that we love or people that are close to us.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to choosing who is going to be uncomfortable or who's going to hurt, I would speak for myself and say, I'm the one that is going to take the bullet. I'm the one that's going to take the pain so that I don't make somebody else unhappy.
Okay, so here's the thing. I didn't say even if it means hurting someone. I said disappointing, right? And disappointment doesn't feel good. But here's the thing. Once they experience it and you experience what freedom and joy you get to tap into, they actually will benefit from it. But we have to move through this. So that belief about us taking on the pain and the hurt is being the sacrificial lamb for everything is not self-love. It's not kindness. It's not gentleness. It's not ease. And so we absolutely must choose to see it another way and choose to be willing to risk that discomfort for a moment in order to be able to show them how it's done, or else we will continue to pass down our cycles of self-harm and self-sacrifice. Because the way society has us set up is that's where we get our accolades and our rewards. Thank you, Mom, because you sacrificed so much. You gave up this, you gave up that, you gave up whatever.
Wow.
You worked so hard for me. And what they're really saying is you gave up joy. You gave up peace. You gave up satisfaction. You gave up your life so that I could have. And now, because you were my model, I'm going to give it all up so that somebody else can have. So when do we choose the joy? When do we tap into that place of fulfillment and satisfaction? When do we get to love from our overflow if we keep choosing in this way? So be able to look at it from a perspective of how can this choice actually be of benefit? Who else will benefit from me saying yes to me in such a powerful way? What is the impact? Like, remember, think about that desired experience. I don't think anybody's desired experience was to be frustrated, overwhelmed, and exhausted. So if that's your desire, then continue on the path that you've been choosing. Have at it. But I say opt out.
But you know what's funny, Mel, is even in the midst of all that, I'm saying to myself, wow, I have a daughter, right?
Mhm.
And I don't want my daughter to go in that same direction. So oftentimes, you know, we may not think about the benefit of it for ourselves, which is not necessarily a good thing. But even if you're thinking about your children, you still are going to come to the same, you know what, I got to do this so that my children do better.
Yeah. Absolutely. We get to show them because a picture speaks more than 1,000 words, right? And you get to start where you are. We don't want to beat ourselves up for all the choices we made before this moment. Yesterday is gone. Put it down. Be here, be now. Choose this moment.
Wow. So tell us, Melanie, how are your services made available? We know you're not a therapist, but if someone were interested in learning more about you, I do your website, the melaniefootdavis.com. Is that the best way to reach you?
Yes.
So-
Also, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. If someone is interested in doing, you can do a 20-minute comp joy activation consultation with me. And then we can decide, together we can decide what would be the next best step for you. So that's one way. So let me put that in the chat. Hold on. For anyone who's interested in that.
And while you're doing that, can you also include, for those that are interested in getting your book, Radical Love, how they would be able to obtain that as well?
Okay, sure, absolutely.
While
So-
she's typing that, does anyone have any questions or things you want to share at this time?
Yeah, please, I'm open to hear what served you. And most importantly, what are you going to choose? What one thing are you choosing to shift today? Just one practice.
I just want to say thank you for the invite. What I'm choosing is to take time for self, although I understand about the self-care, but I'm one of those that I got to get this done. I got to get this done. If it's not necessarily for anyone else, it's learning how to sit still. And sometimes I do move around a lot. So that is a part of sitting still. You know, I've learned how to move and to meditate at the same time, but sometimes I just need to sit down, you know, and I do have that love that we talked about. I do have people that love me in my circle to remind me that, and that's where you have to not take an offense, because your people that care for you gonna remind you, because they can see your space and they'll remind you to put you back in your space. So that's what I'm gonna take from that today.
Yes, and I'm glad you shared that, because our circle of influence is important. We all need some truth tellers in our circle.
That's right.
And I don't mean truth tellers from a space where they're tearing you down and that's just the way, when I'm just telling you the truth because that's just how I am, right? I mean the one that says, hey sis, I'm concerned. Here's what I'm observing. And here's where that could possibly lead. Is this really what you want? Right? Let's talk about what you like to do instead, what you'd like to experience instead, and let me know how I may support you. We all need those people that are willing to just get fierce with their love. Fierce doesn't mean letting you have your way.
It's a teacher.
Yes. And then also celebrate. Celebrate your smallest wins, because it builds momentum for your next win. Don't minimize anything that you've done. I'm celebrating you right now because you showed up here and you thought you didn't have time.
That's where that's my takeaway.
Yes, some of you even had challenges with the link, but you didn't give up and you showed up anyway. That is worth a party. You know, it's what are the ways that you celebrate? And here's another thing. Who celebrates with you? Know who those people are too. When you have something that you want to celebrate, Like one of the things I am really proud of is that people call me to tell me great things. And they'll say, because I know that you are going to be genuinely happy for me, because I am. So who are those people that will be genuinely happy for you? Who empathize with your joys, with your success? Not the ones that say, oh, okay, that's nice, but girl, let me tell you what happened. Right? Where they won't even take a moment to say, wow, sis, I'm proud of you. Wow, sis. Girl, that's awesome. Like, I know you've been really working towards this, and I'm really excited to see you here. Who are those people? Tap into them. Hope, I saw you unmute yourself. Were you going to share?
Oh, sorry. I wasn't going to share. I wasn't trying to unmute myself. I apologize. But I will just say I was running into that. I just talked to Miss Tanya about the 6:30 and I looked up and it was 6:51. And I did have that doubt of not joining. And then once I came in, it's just like you started speaking about just self-love, and instantly it's like it connected with me. I think a lot of times that my joy that I have, I know you were just mentioning about having that support. You having that, I like to look at having the energy of those who truly support me. And sometimes when I don't have that energy, then I go into a negative thought. So I'm choosing today to continue with the positive aspects and to be my own cheerleader. When I do reach those minor goals, because I think sometimes if it's not what I've considered a major goal, I don't cheer myself on enough first. So that's one of my true takeaways is just, building with goals and giving myself a back hug. You're welcome.
Yeah, because here's the thing. I'm no sports aficionado, right? But here's what I do know. When I watch a football game, when they catch that pass, the fans cheer. The teams cheer. They haven't won. They could actually be down by 25 points. But we cheer anyway. We celebrate the possibility of them winning. We celebrate the possibility of them getting a touchdown on the next pass, right? But we don't do that for ourselves. We feel like we have to win the game before we get a moment to celebrate. Complete the pass, celebrate. Take a step, celebrate. Take a breath, celebrate. I exhaled today, right? The same way we do our children. When they're walking, they fall. We don't say, see, that's why you shouldn't have tried to walk. I told you were going to fall, right? But that's what we do to ourselves. So let's choose another thought. Replace any self-sabotaging, harmful, hurtful thoughts. Any of those things that say, hey, shame on you. With something.
Jarena, did you have a question? Oh, I'm sorry, Melly. I'm so sorry. Jarena, did you have a question?
No, I wanted to I was sharing a takeaway, but I can wait until she's done.
Sure, I'm ready to hear your takeaway. I just want to say, I put the link in for a complimentary 20-minute consultation. I also put a link in to get a free gift where you can get, it's a self-love compass. And so it provides a self-love tool for you to really do a self check-in and see where you are, and another link for a free meditation so that you can have more moments that you master. And you asked for the book link, and I'm listening.
So my takeaway was when you were saying to be your own cheerleader or to cheer for yourself. It's sometimes with me, it's really hard for me to cheer for myself because I am the oldest throughout, and then I have like a lot of responsibilities for other people. And then like when I get to a point of success, it's like, okay, so I really can't share that because someone else that's under me or around me or in my circle has not gotten there, and they're looking at me like, oh, is she bragging or is she? So I have to really to take people out of my circle that I can't cheer with or celebrate with. So that's a main thing for me.
Thank you for sharing that. So that's what I call I have a story called Sparkle Don't Shine. And that sounds like what you're experiencing, where to a certain degree, right?
Yeah.
And Tanya, I put the book link in there too. And I don't know, do I have a minute to share that, Tanya? Okay, here's my Sparkle Don't Shine story. When I was in kindergarten, I was in a coloring contest and I used to win. I would win an ice cream sandwich. And I was so excited about my ice cream sandwich. I don't remember how many times I won, but here's what I do remember. I remember the excitement I felt for winning. And then I remember a grown-up, I don't even remember who the adult was, told me that I could no longer participate in the coloring contest because it wasn't fair for me to keep winning. I needed to give the other kids a chance. So my little 5-year-old mind felt really deflated after that. And the way I processed that was, I'm stopping my friends from being able to win because I'm taking away from them. That's not, I don't believe that that's what the adult who told me that intended for me to take from that, but that's how my little mind processed that. And so to this day, I am constantly minding my inner chatter to check in with myself because I don't celebrate publicly. If you go to my Facebook, my social media posts and things like that, you don't see a lot of me, a lot of self-acknowledgement, because I don't want other kids to feel like they are not winning. You see how that imprinted me? But the truth is, I get to sparkle and I get to shine. And you get to shine too. There are many stars in the sky and they look beautiful when they're up there together. They're all shining. So you go ahead and celebrate your win. Celebrate in color. Celebrate out loud. Can we all just celebrate her right now? Woo!
Yeah.
Feel the love, feel the energy. We just feeling
Go
good.
Darina, go Darina,
Yes.
go Darina, go
You
Darina.
work it. You work it. Work it. Work it.
Go girl! On
Oh,
fire.
thank you.
Yeah, you get to sparkle and you get to shine. And guess what? That gives other people permission to do so too.
Mhm.
And anybody who's not happy with it, it's not you, it's what's going on with them. That's their stuff, their unhealed wounds coming up. And it's important for us to not take on the responsibility to feel like we have to heal every wound out there. We have to first start with our own. So I am so grateful for all of you for showing up tonight, because you didn't show up for Tanya, even though you thought you did. You didn't show up for me, even though you may have thought you did. You showed up for you.
Mhm.
And it was the way you said yes is because you thought you were supporting Tanya or you thought you were supporting me, because that made it easier for you to say yes to. And while you were here, just by default, you got to receive.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I wish you all more love, more joy, more peace, more adventure, more yumminess, and more yeses to you, because you're so worthy of it.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I hope that everyone has had an opportunity to get the information out of the link. If you miss it for any reason, P3 always puts our symposiums up on our website. So if you ever wanted to take a look at this recording or any of the other ones we've had in the past, I welcome you to go to www.westaustinp3.com. Please stay abreast of all of our activities and events that we have going on. We're going to have a phenomenal Juneteenth event coming up, celebrating mental health in the month of June. So I will keep you guys abreast of that. If I don't have your email addresses, please reach out to me and make sure that I get your information so that you can enjoy symposiums like this. Melanie, I love you. Thank you so much. This has been awesome, and everyone have a very blessed and safe evening. Thank you all for being here. Good
Thank
night.
you. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.